a nation. History bears testament to those who have led a nation. From the early kings that united warring tribes to create some semblance of a nation, to those that have caught the spirit and essence of their people and turned it into the ingredients to forge empires. We have seen those who have risen to lead. Kings, queens, emperors, revolutionaries, generals, presidents and prime ministers. Each has sought to harness the power of a nation and with it govern it. Some seek stability, others glory and conquest, and others wish to make the nation great again. From Julius Caesar to Margaret Thatcher, from Cleopatra to JFK, from Queen Elizabeth to Winston Churchill, and from Wu Zetian to Barack Obama, we have witnessed leaders rise and fall. The great and the greedy, the peaceful and the pugilists, the builders and the bringers of destruction. The world has witnessed many leaders, but what if your favorite YouTubers found themselves installed as a leader of a nation, be it an existing one or a virgin nation state? How would they lead? What would change? What would remain? What would their key policies be? What would be the national anthem? Who would form their cabinet? How would they rule? Well, you are about to find out in HG Tudor's exciting new series, If I Ruled My World, where YouTubers hold the reins of power and you decide if you want them as your leader. Hello, I'm HG Tudor, and welcome to If I Ruled My World, where the reins of power have been handed to a particular person, and we find out what their plans are to rule their nation state. Today, I'm joined by Stef, the altar nerd. Hello and welcome, Stef.
Hey up, AG, how you doing?
I'm tickety-boo, thank you for your kind inquiry. Now, I'm going to have to show a degree of due deference that the Ultra can muster up because you've been appointed as the leader of a country, and we're going to find out all about what this country looks like and particular aspects of it. But let's start with, what's your country called?
Existent.
Existent.
Yes.
How do you spell that?
Well, this is fun. It's EXISTENT. So it also spells existent.
Yeah.
But it's existent.
Okay. I was wondering whether it would be the Republic of Yorkshire, but that wasn't going to happen. So existent. So tell me, what's the thought process behind that name?
Because I am a great follower and believer in the philosophical theory of existentialism. So.
Okay. And for people who aren't familiar with that, could you sum it up in a few sentences?
Oh, my goodness. Well, let's put it this way. There are many proponents of existentialism. The one that I prefer is Jean-Paul Sartre.
Mm-hmm.
And the main tenet that I take away from existentialism is this thing about freedom. So as long as you don't take away someone else's freedom, then you're doing the right thing, and, vice versa.
Okay. So we have a sort of philosophical foundation for the nation that you lead. And an early platform or plinth of this is the concept of not taking away people's freedoms. Well, I'll be interested to see if that's borne out by your further answers, to see if we've got a consistent leader here or a hypocritical politician. So, what's the capital of existent?
Oh, it's Sartre.
Ah, that makes perfect sense. Okay. And what would your seat of power be?
I don't want it.
You don't want a seat of power.
No.
So
I
what
would
would we
rather
have? Would we just
Nigel Farage in the seat of power, and if anything, I would just be a philosophical, political advisor kind of situation.
Right, I see. So you'd actually want an alternative figurehead to be in place. But would then you be the power behind the throne as the advisor? Would you be this sort of eminence grise that would be pulling the strings?
No.
No?
No, I would just be like the technical philosophical advisor that knows about existentialism, where maybe the person in the seat of power may not know as much about it.
I see.
That would be the kind of relationship.
And you mentioned Nigel Farage as adopting that.
Mm.
Why?
Because, to be quite honest, I voted for him in this year's general election in the UK.
Okay.
I really do stand by his stance on, illegal immigration and looking after British citizens and reforming Britain, because it's broken at the moment, and he's the only one that seems to actually understand that and see that.
Yes.
So when you have a politician that's quite astute like that and is seeing something that the other politicians are not seeing, then to me, that is a great, great asset.
So you'd install him as embodying what's important to you, and then you would ensure that you are providing him with the appropriate advice so that he becomes effective in relation to your nation state.
Yes.
Okay. Now, what about the national anthem? We're going for something that's a bit of a chest beater that gets people puffing their chests out in pride, or is it something jolly and upbeat? What have we got by way of national anthem?
So it's something jolly and upbeat. It's from my favourite band, which is Alter Bridge, which is where my name originates from.
Yes.
And it's called My Champion.
Okay.
And you've probably never heard it before, so...
But you've anticipated the exact words that were going to come out of my mouth. But I've never heard it before. I sense you're going to give me a little taste of it.
Yeah. So the chorus, sorry.
Yes.
Brain fart there. Let me read that. So sometimes you fall before your eyes. Sometimes you lose it all to find. You've got to keep fighting and get back up again, my champion.
Okay.
And so it's a rallying cry to everyone to turn around and say, you know what? Never give up. You can be great within yourself and for others as well. And so, let's work together and be champions together.
So that's interesting because that's based on the concept of the people rather than necessarily the land or the leader or such like.
Well, it's the people that make the country.
Mm-hmm.
The government and the leader work for the people, not the other way around.
Yeah.
And so the emphasis should always then be on the people.
Just
people who live on the land, who maintain the land.
Yes, that's fair enough. Just as an aside, obviously you're British, and in terms of the UK's national anthem, God Save the King, does that find favour with you?
Yeah.
Okay. But that's about one person, not the people.
I find it I find it okay.
Yeah.
And fine and completely suitable because of the tradition of it.
Yes.
It's part of the British identity. It's part of British culture. And I find that very, very precious, and that cannot be lost. However, if we're talking about my own country and how things are going to be, then yeah, it would be slightly different. But I appreciate, respect, and accept and absolutely love the British national anthem. And anyone that doesn't, they need to have a word with themselves.
Okay. And what about then, and this is all about, of course, understanding your thought process behind if you ruled your world. If somebody had a problem with My Champion by Alter Bridge, they're saying, no, I wanted something that was tub thumping about, like Land of Hope and Glory, that kind of thing. Do they need to have a word with themselves for not accepting your national anthem?
Well, at the end of the day, everyone has a right to their own opinion. You're never going to be able to please everyone in terms of your choices. That's just life. But at the end of the day, that would be the national anthem of Existent.
Yep.
And they can either choose to accept that or not and still live in the country of Existent. That is their freedom of choice. That is absolutely fine.
Okay. So if the football manager of Existent decided he wasn't going to sing along to My Champion, that's okay?
Yes.
Right. Fair
because
enough.
the whole country is based on this idea of freedom, and everyone has the freedom to do what they want to do as long as it's not taking away the freedom of anyone else or violating the freedom of anyone else.
Okay. That put me in mind of another band then saying, Primal Scream, who said, we want to be free. We want to be free to get loaded. We want to be free to do this and to do that. So freedom is is very much coming across as the central strand of your ethos here.
Yes.
Jolly good. What's your national dish?
My lasagna parcels.
Tell me about those.
It's such an Italian thing because for those that don't know, yes, I am proper Yorkshire and English as they come, but I'm also half Italian as well. So yeah, the lasagna parcels, I got them from a recipe, and it's essentially getting fresh lasagna sheets, cutting them up long ways into 4 strips, and then putting those strips into a cross on like your cabinet table or whatever. And then you fry off a little bit of beef, mix them with some passata and tomato, maybe some herbs or whatever else you want to put in it. And then you put a little bit of that mixture in the middle of the lasagna sheet cross, a little bit of mozzarella as well on top. And then what you do is you fold up the cross into like a parcel, and then you put it in the oven, and it takes about half an hour on about 180 degrees. And yeah, lasagna parcels.
Well, there we are, viewers. This is not just about learning about Steph's nation state. You're getting some cooking thrown in as well. So it's all learning here, What about this scenario, Steph? The Italian ambassador wants to come and see you. He's not happy that lasagna has been appropriated in this way. There could be a diplomatic incident here. How are you going to handle that in relation to your national dish?
Piss off your cow bag.
Okay.
It's the national dish.
That's
it is
national
what
dish.
it is. And I'm not appropriating anything when I'm half Italian anyway. This whole thing about, you appropriating my culture, this, that, and the other. I have to be honest. I think it's been very, very overused, and is, in a lot of cases, is being used incorrectly. You can take things from other cultures, and it doesn't mean that you're appropriating them. It just means that, you're learning about someone else's culture and you're incorporating a little bit of their culture into yours. That's a wonderful and fantastic thing. It means that by incorporating other people's cultures into yours, you're becoming a more well-rounded person, and you're becoming more aware and more knowledgeable and, more tolerant of other cultures. Brilliant. Crack on with that.
Perhaps embracing is a better word than appropriation.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And with the national dish of lasagna parcels, which I have to say sounds delightfully yummy.
I'll
will there
make
be
them for you sometime.
I look forward to that. I'll accept that invitation. And is there a prescribed day on which the national dish has to be partaken, or is it just You can make them when you want them.
Make 'em when you want 'em.
Okay. What's your national animal?
The lion.
The lion. Okay. Why have you chosen the lion, Steph?
Fierce,
Hmm?
loyal, strong, but also so free. I see a lion, and in their natural habitat, they are free to wander and roam and live their lives. And they are so majestic and so beautiful in the wild. And so, yeah, the lion.
The lion. And would it be the case that the lion might be a creature that lives in existent, or are you lion free? For example, as we know in the United Kingdom, we have 3 lions for the football team, but as far as I recall, lions haven't roamed the UK's green and pleasant land. Is it going to be similar for existent, that you've adopted the lion even though it's not native to your land, or is it native to your land?
We've adopted the lion, but it's not native to our land because
Okay, so nobody's going to
I
get.
don't want to suffer the whole death by lion situation. So
Okay, that's fair enough. And then your flag. Now, your flag's on screen, and it's quite arty, I have to say. It's interesting. You've created that, haven't you?
yes, by using Midjourney, but yes,
Okay.
I created it using Midjourney AI, and what you see firstly is, you know, the red, blue, and white that's reminiscent of the colours of the UK,
Hmm.
the Union Jack. But I wanted it to represent freedom.
Right.
And for me, when I created this flag and it came up, it embodies it. You know, it's all flowing ideas of freedom, flowing speech of freedom. It just all flows and it just all is so free. It's not like uniformal with, you know, straight lines and everything in its place. It's just free, just to be. And yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that's a good embodiment of the concepts. As you say, it's flowing rather than demonstrating rigidity, which is often what we see with tricolours and crosses and such like. I don't think, off the top of my head, that there are any comparable flags of that nature that have that degree of free flowing about them. So there's nothing to do with, say, the sea or purity in relation to the colours. It's essentially taken from the Union flag as utilizing red, white, and blue, although there's 2 shades of blue there. So, yeah. And the national flag, is there going to be a mandate that is flown from all public buildings and that people have them on flagpoles in their gardens?
Well, you know, I think it's a nice tradition that it's flown from the, you know, official governmental buildings.
Yeah.
In terms of, you know, a mandate for people to have the flag outside their front door, no. Again, it's about freedom of choice. They all have the option to have the flag outside their front door. And if they want to do that, fine. And if not, that's fine too.
Would you like to cultivate a pride in flying the flag privately?
So, yeah, there would be like a communication to everyone to, you know, try and explain why it's important to fly the flag, why it's important to have one. You know, it's always fine to put your side across, and explain to people, you know, where you're coming from and why it's important with, you know, let's say this flag, this, that, and the other. But ultimately, you know, it's their decision as to what they do with that information. They either fly the flag or they don't. Cool.
Okay. Because it's interesting, isn't it? Because again, we liken this to the United Kingdom, both being British, that there often seems to be a reluctance from people to want to fly the flag for fear of being labelled as racist or such like, that there isn't the same pride that exists For instance, if you take Scandinavia, they're flag mad there. They love their flags, and quite rightly so. So, for instance, on Norway's Constitutional Day on May the 17th, flags everywhere. Kids are waving little ones. Many people have flagpoles outside of their properties, and they run up a great big flag on the Constitutional Day, on people's birthdays, important days, and everybody thinks, yep, that's a good thing to show the flag. The Danes, they're big users of flags. You get flags on your birthday cake alongside your candles, and so would you like to see something similar in Existent, that people really associate the flag with celebration and demonstrating that pride?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And when it comes to the UK, you know, there's a large part of the population, I believe, that are afraid to be proud to be British, that are afraid to fly that flag, that are afraid to really promote, you know, British values, British culture. And that's because, in my opinion, they've been beaten down to be afraid, especially by this new government, by this new Labour government. Two-tier Kia, like this. I mean, whoever's watching, you do you, vote whoever you want to vote for. I mean, no disrespect in terms of voicing my own political opinion, as I know that you wouldn't mean any disrespect voicing your own political opinion. But to me, the sooner two-tier Kia is out, the better. I think he's absolutely dangerous for this country right now, and all the policies that he's trying to implement. It's insane.
So no importing of Keir Starmer's ideas and policies into Existent then?
Hell no. Hell no. To go to jail for 2 to 3 years just for sharing a post or making an opinion. We're getting into like thought police, speak police 1984 Orwellian territory here. And that flies in the face of everything that I believe in when it comes to freedom.
So in Existent, people will be free to criticize your government quite readily on X and on other social media platforms and stir it up if things aren't going their way?
My goodness, of course. The government, again, works for the people. It's not the other way around. And so the people are the boss, not the government. The government just follows through with the people's will as per, you know, what they voted for when it came to policies and whatnot in, let's say, elections. Okay. And so, yeah, the people should have the absolute freedom to be able to criticize their government. People should, I think this is something from V for Vendetta, which is one of my favorite films.
We were going to mention that.
Yeah, great minds think alike then, because people should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of their people.
Okay.
Believe that 100%.
Well, with that phrase, that segues nicely into asking you, what's the national motto of Existent?
It's my favorite philosophical saying from Jean-Paul Sartre. And I'm just going to say the first part, but I can expand on it, which is man is condemned to be free. That is one of the most well-quoted kind of writings of Jean-Paul Sartre. It's in one of his essays called Existentialism is a Humanism, if anyone wants to look it up. That's a book that absolutely changed my life. Absolutely changed my life. I stumbled on it when I was about 17, 18 years old, studying philosophy at A level. And yeah, that book like changed my life, changed my whole belief pattern and system and my ethics, the whole lot. And so to expand on this motto, so man is condemned to be free because once thrown into this world, he is responsible for everything he does. And yeah, there you go.
Okay. So, and if somebody sees that as the national motto of your country, and it's a good one, man is condemned to be free, would you ensure that people understood what that meant, or would you allow them to make their own interpretation of it?
No, I would make sure that they understood what it meant. You know, in the school system,
yeah,
there would be a topic in terms of, you know, the existent national identity and culture.
Okay.
and to teach them about existentialism and what it is and what it means.
Okay. You have a national day.
Yes.
Okay. You have to have one. First of all, what are you going to call that national day?
The Jean-Paul Sartre Day.
Okay. Personal hero, I feel, that's coming out of this. So the
Yes.
Jean-Paul Sartre Day. And, well, we understand why you choose that. And what date in the calendar would you have for Jean-Paul Sartre Day?
21st of June.
Is there any significance in that particular date?
Yeah, it's his birthday.
Ah, right. Perfect sense. Okay. So everybody would gather beneath the freedom flag to belt out Alter Bridge My Champion on the 21st of June whilst holding mini effigies of Jean-Paul Sartre. That's
And
the
eating
scene.
lasagna parcels.
Eating lasagna parcels. Sounds like a party. Now, we touched on this slightly before, Steph, with mentioning Nigel Farage, but you're going to have to form some kind of cabinet. Now, we're not going to go through every single position. That would become rather laborious. So we've picked, or rather I've picked, for you to then fill these positions, and they have to be filled, with 5 particular positions. So starting off, who would be your defense chief?
Captain America.
Okay, what's the rationale behind that?
Because he's a soldier and a great tactician and a great leader. You know, when you see the films of the Avengers and you read the comic books, he epitomizes the best and greatest soldier in the Marvel universe. So, Captain America.
Okay. Do you think the citizens of Existent would take to that particular cultural import as their chief of defense?
Yes.
Okay. Who's foreign secretary?
Ricky Gervais.
Ricky Gervais. Interesting choice. Why is he foreign secretary?
Because he will just give it to the country straight.
Yeah.
And just not mess about and be like, stop being stupid numbheads. Bang their heads together and be like, let's have a whiskey from me brand and let's sit down and really hammer this shiz out.
So you'd like him to adopt the spirit of his sort of address for the Golden Globes. Yeah. So calling it as it is, straight talking. So that kind of diplomacy. Okay. So we've got Captain America. He's keeping your country safe. Perhaps possibly mopping up after some diplomatic incidents that Mr. Gervais' straight talking might cause.
Yeah.
But who's our boffin? Who's our chief scientific officer?
It has to be Spock.
I had a feeling you were going to say that. Yeah. And it should be patently obvious to people why that is, but I'll let you expand.
He's the chief scientific officer in Star Trek. Enough said. The iconic, the only one.
And deployer of logic, which you know I'm a huge fan of. What about, do you think there's any room, because he doesn't let feelings and emotions get in the way of his decision making at all? Do you think that would be appropriate? Say, let's say that your country's hit by a part of the pandemic, and in the circumstances, tough decisions are having to be made, you know, along the line of what happened with COVID. Do you think that the best solid approach is to stick with the science there, or is there room for some feeling and consideration of the human condition and all of that?
It's not a question of is there room for feeling and human condition, because feeling and human condition will always enter the room no matter what. It'll always make room. But when it comes to science, as far as I'm concerned, the less feeling and emotion that's employed within the scientific field, the better. Because science, as far as I'm concerned, is all based on empirical evidence and logic. And that really has no room for feeling or emotion, because you cannot, with emotion or feeling, argue against a scientific fact.
Okay.
You just have to take it as it is, and Spock embodies that.
Yeah. And I suppose if anybody gets out of line, he can always give them the old pinch to knock them out, can't he? I forget what that's called now. But yeah, so we've got Captain America, Ricky Gervais, and Spock. Who's going to be holding the purse strings? Who's the Chancellor of the Exchequer, as we'd say in the UK, or a Treasury Secretary?
Elon Musk.
Elon Musk. Why Elon?
He's one of the richest people in the world. He has spearheaded and created successful companies. And as far as I'm concerned, is pulling Twitter in the right direction.
Mm-hmm.
And so as a proven businessman on an epic global and quite literally universal scale, I think that he would have the experience and the knowledge and the logic to be able to run a country and its finances.
Okay. And I suppose as well, if you were getting into difficulties, you could always say, Elon, could you lend us a few billion just to tide us over until the end of the week? So there is that advantage as well, isn't there? So
yeah,
good choice. And our final member of this short form cabinet is the Minister for Fun. Who's that?
Jimmy Carr.
Jimmy Carr. Now that's an interesting choice because he's a pretty sardonic individual. And I suppose as well, given his past history of tax issues, Elon might be looking into him. But why Jimmy?
He's one of my favourite comedians, and I just think he's really funny and a lot of fun. And so I thought, Minister for Fun, one of my favourites, Jimmy Carr. There you go.
Okay, so there's a little bit of personal gratification coming out of that he's going to throw a few gags around those long cabinet meetings when you're wading into the night and sending out for pizza when difficult decisions are being made. He can keep spirits up with some piss taking going on. Fair enough. Well, that seems quite a well-rounded and entertaining cabinet that you have there. Interesting that you've not picked any politicians whatsoever. Was that deliberate, or is it just how it panned out?
Totally deliberate.
Why is that?
Because to have a politician's mind, they do a lot of doublespeak and a lot of misdirection. And I don't want that. I want just real, honest, non-politicians in the cabinet that's going to say what's what. It's going to just be really straightforward and get the job done.
That's fair enough. With Ricky as Foreign Secretary, he's going to obviously navigate the waters of international diplomacy. And in that, you've got a major ally. Which country would you see as being your major ally?
America.
United States.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Because the dollar's still the world currency standard. They're still the superpower. And yeah, in terms of their, geopolitical influence and reach, their military, the cache of nuclear weapons that they've got, but also as well, their economy, the people that are there. Yeah, America is to me the logical answer for the ally of existent.
Okay. And then on the other side of the coin, who's your main enemy?
North Korea.
And that's because?
Of its totalitarian approach on its people. That's an absolute antithesis to my beliefs and ethical values on freedom as an existentialist.
Okay. Is there any particular group that wouldn't be welcome in your country that Border Force will be turning around and sending away?
Only those that refuse to assimilate to the culture and refuse to follow our laws.
Okay, given the fact that they're going to arrive at your border before being able to ascertain that they're assimilating or not. How would you test that?
There would be some, I would presume, psychological test that would be able to weed out at least some of them.
Mhm.
And for those that come in that slip through the net, they'll soon expose themselves anyway, and then they just get kicked out.
So would you have those newly arrived immigrants on a sort of probationary period to see that maybe in the course of a year that they embrace the philosophy of existence and its laws and its culture, and if they don't, then it's ta-ra?
Yeah.
Okay. Now we turn to 5 foundation policies of your government, which can be anything that you want: serious, not so serious, mixture of them, mixture of the two. What's your first policy, O leader of existent?
Well, I mentioned earlier on that America would be the country's major ally.
Yes.
Another reason as to why is because of America's First Amendment. And so one of the 5 foundational properties of the government would be freedom of speech.
Yeah. Okay. And as we've seen in certain places, this can clash in terms of people saying that someone expressing their view might be propagating racial hatred, and freedom of speech or freedom of expression has certainly been curtailed in certain places by the behavior of the police and the policies associated with that. Is freedom of speech absolute? Is always going to prevail no matter what the consequences?
This is the thing, right? For those that are turning around and saying, oh, well, freedom of speech incites racial hatred, this, that, and the other. Yes, it can do, but in a lot of cases it doesn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't at all. But people say that anyway to try and silence the person that's criticizing because they don't like the criticism.
Yes.
So they'll throw that across to try and silence someone and bully them into being quiet. Now, the thing is, as I mentioned, the main tenet of the country is as long as you don't take away someone else's freedom, then you're going to be all right. Now, if there is a proven link that someone who exercises their freedom of speech did actually incite racial hatred, then yeah, they would be prosecuted, because at the end of the day, they're taking away someone else's freedom to be able to live their life the way they want to. If there's no proven link whatsoever, whether any damage has been done, then no, crack on, and people just have to get thicker skin.
Fair enough. Policy number 2, please.
Looking after and helping our own citizens first.
So citizens of existence come first.
Yes.
What would you say to those that would suggest that that makes it difficult to have people come and say fill a skills gap that existent might have? People say, oh, I don't feel welcome because I feel that there's a 2-tier approach because existing citizens of existent are treated more favorably.
At the end of the day, if they think that, go somewhere else. Absolutely fair enough. Because the reason why I've put that in is because I'm absolutely angry and disgusted and upset that Keir Starmer has taken away the winter fuel allowance for millions of pensioners that are now going to struggle this winter and are having to choose between either eating food or heating their home. And they shouldn't have to do that, paying the taxes all their life to then get the little help that they do get taken away. I think is absolutely disgusting. And when you see, the billions of pounds of, military aid that we're sending over to Ukraine and, other countries, right? It's like, well, hang on a minute. The balance isn't right here. Again, the government needs to work for its own people first. And so for me, it's like, okay, before you look at other countries and other nations and help them, okay, help your own first. They put you into power because they believe you're going to make their lives better, not worse. So make their lives better. And any surplus that you've got, because there will be, then okay, look to other nations and help them.
Right, understood. Policy number 3, please.
Policy number 3, reintroduce the death penalty.
Reintroduce the death penalty.
Yep.
Okay. And that naturally leads to the follow-up question. For what is the death penalty going to be imposed?
It would be for the absolute, extreme, heinous crimes. So you're talking, a bit triggering. So please bear with me when you're watching. But things like rapists, pedophiles, serial killers, just killers overall.
So murder.
Those kind of heinous crimes.
You mentioned pedophiles. So somebody's caught in possession of indecent images of children. Death penalty?
I wouldn't. Do you know what? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And the reason being is because having those images to me is tantamount to them doing it to that innocent poor child themselves.
Understood. So the death penalty is reintroduced, and that would be for heinous crimes against the person. It would appear in relation to rape, murder, child sex abuse, in effect, paedophilia. Yes. Okay. What form would the death penalty take? Are we going to have an extent? They're going to be hanged? Are they going to have lethal injection? Are they going to get electrocuted, shot, taken out the back and shot, or subjected to having to listen to Celine Dion until their brain explodes? How's it going to go?
Lethal injection. Like the most, painless way possible.
Okay. Policy number 4, please.
Allow assisted suicide without the threat of prosecution to those that accompany the patient on their final journey. In other words, people to have the freedom as to how they want to exit this life when they are faced with an incurable terminal disease that is robbing them of their mental and physical freedom.
Yeah. Now, naturally, one would I'm sure put in place certain safeguards to make the determination that that person has made the decision in appropriate circumstances.
Of course.
Really, naturally, that would occur. And so it's giving people that freedom to decide, well, I've had enough and I want to shuffle off this mortal coil now. And then those that assist, there's no prosecution of them.
Correct.
Okay. And your final policy, please, Steph.
Legalize marijuana.
Legalize marijuana. Okay. What's the thought process behind that?
It's a natural plant, and it has so much medical properties and benefits that at this point it makes no sense for it to still be illegal. You look at America, for example, and some states have legalized it, some just for medical purposes, as long as you've got a prescription, this, that, and the other. Others, it's completely, free, legal, all that lot, right? But either way, you look at these states and you see that with the state legislator being able to tax on this, it's raising so much funds to be able to put back into the public.
What would you do with those funds? Would they be ring-fenced for specific purposes, or would it just go into general taxation that the Treasury can use, that Elon Musk can lay his hands on?
Yeah, it'll just go into general taxation and go to where it's needed.
Okay. Well, those policies, all fairly serious ones, and it would appear that probably matters which are pretty close to your heart.
Yeah, absolutely. It's why I chose them. I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't smoke marijuana. Let me be very, very clear on that.
I wasn't going to ask you about your personal choice there, but that's fine.
Yeah. I mean, I've tried it a couple of times when I've been in America, and it's been, of course, legal to do so within that particular state. But yeah, I just, how do I put this? To me, it's a natural plant, and it has so many benefits medically that, to me, I don't think it should be demonized. It can help so many people who are in a medical condition where this can actually help them. And with it being a natural plant, you know, the side effects and whatnot would be less than taking something that's artificial, that has a long list of, you know, contradictions of, okay, it'll make you nauseous. You could, I'm paraphrasing here, but lose your eyesight and, you know, lose an arm and a leg and, you know, all this mad stuff. You don't really have any of that with marijuana. So, yeah.
Okay. Well, there we have it. That is the country of existent, with the philosophical leader, Stef, a place where on the 21st of June, everybody worships Jean-Paul Sartre, belts out Alter Bridge by My Champion, or rather My Champion by Alter Bridge, let me get it the right way around, consumes, no doubt after having had a spliff and getting the munchies, plenty of lasagna parcels, whilst Captain America and Ricky Gervais look on. North Korea isn't particularly well liked. The US is a big friend and ally. We have the freedom flag fluttering in the breeze on a beautiful summer's day. So that's the picture that's been painted. That's Stef's country, existent. Valuable viewers, would you want to live there? And if so, why would you want to live there? And if you don't, why wouldn't you? Remember, Stef has been very honest about what her policies and thoughts are all about it. But it's for you to determine whether you'd like to live in existence. And so you can share your thoughts in the comments. And Stef, thank you very much for sharing your vision of your country and letting us know about how you'd rule your world.
Thank you for having me, HG.
You're most welcome.